On today's show, we're talking prospects. I'm going to break down my list of the top 10 in the Mets system.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the number one daily podcast on the New York Mets. If you want to find any of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the editor-in-chief. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today. Now, I have spent a lot of time working on my list of the top 20 prospects in the Mets farm system. I was all ready to go to break down the top 10 for a Friday farm report. Then we had all the news on Thursday, Major League Baseball. So I made Friday a news-oriented show, but I wanted to give you the top 10 I promised for this week. So that's why we're doing that today. Later on, next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, depending on the news cycle, I will finish off this list and break down prospects 11 to 20. But let's dive right in to the top of this list, because I think when you talk about the Mets top 10, once you get further down the list, there's a little bit more intrigue. Who's he going to say? Because there's some debate when you get a little bit further down. When you're talking about the very top of this farm system, I think anyone is crazy if they don't have Nolan McLean as the number one prospect in this system right now. McLean earned that when he pitched to a 2.06 ERA in 8 big league starts, struck out 57 in 48 innings pitched, was legitimately the Mets ace down the stretch. And going into this year, right now, currently, he is still their ace. They have to go out this offseason and get someone that I think can headline that rotation in front of McLean so he can settle into a more comfortable number 2 spot. So there's not so much pressure on him. But right now, he is the favorite to win the NL Rookie of the Year. The Mets are in line to get that draft pick, the much talked about draft pick, the PPI, the prospect promotion incentive, where the Mets maintain his rookie eligibility in season. Maybe could have been a mistake. Who knows? Because if McLean came up a little bit sooner, maybe the Mets win an extra game. Other side of that coin, he was really ready when he did make his debut. And honestly, if he did pitch in October, probably would have been wasted bullets because there was no world where this Mets team was going to go on a deep run anyway. But because he still has not played 45 days in the big leagues, he will be a rookie on opening day. He will start on the roster on opening day, meaning he is eligible for the prospect promotion incentive. And if he wins the Rookie of the Year or finishes in the top 3 of the Cy Young at any point in his first 3 seasons in the big leagues, the New York Mets will be awarded a draft pick after the first round. So Nolan McLean, right now, the top prospect in the system, and I think the favorite to an NL Rookie of the Year in 2026. Another guy that could be in the running, though, is Carson Benge. I got him at number 2 in this system, and this is a pretty easy decision for me. Carson Benge has every chance of being the Mets starting center fielder in 2026. I think, I did a show about this a couple weeks ago. He might be their best option, although you can't just rush him. He has to earn it in spring training to get that opportunity. But I think by June he's up. And this is a guy that really did just have an outstanding first professional season. 60 games played in high A to start the year. He hit 302, 417 on base, 480 slug, which I'd almost say his slug was lower than it could have been because he was playing in Brooklyn, a very tough ballpark to leave the yard. So he only hit 4 home runs in 60 games, but he had 18 doubles and 5 triples. Gets up to Double-A, plays in the 30, I don't think I had the games listed on my research. It was in the 30s, maybe 38 games. It was a little over a month, maybe 5 weeks played, maybe 6 in Binghamton. He hit 317, 407 on base, 571 slug. So he upped his slug by nearly 100 points. His OPS was at 978. He had 8 home runs in nearly half the amount of games in Double-A compared to High A. Had a triple, had 6 doubles. Goes up to Triple-A, does not have that much success, but he got drilled in the hand right in the middle of his stint there. I think he only spent like a week there, and then he gets hit. Then he's trying to play through it. So I don't really take too much from the 583 OPS in AAA. Carson Benge is either going to start this upcoming season back in triple or in the big leagues. And what he showcased with his ability to hit for a high average, his ability to get on base, and the power, where I think, yes, this season he had 12 home runs between high A and double A. I think there is legitimate 20 to 25 home run upside here, and he can stick in center field. Now, long term, what's the best position for Carson Benge? If he plays in right, he's going to be a well above average fielder. In center, it might just be about league average. With what this current team needs, it's him in center field because you have Soto in right, Nimmo in left. But eventually, if you can move Juan Soto, to DH, or even if he somehow picks up first base, whatever it is, and Benge can slide into right, and maybe somebody else can end up as your future center fielder, that's probably the best outlook for the Mets. But I think Carson Benge can at least hang in center field for a while, and he's going to be a really tough at bat and a guy that I think can be a very fast learner up at the big league level. So really excited to see how much we get of Carson Benge in the big leagues in 2026. Regardless, though, I think he will be up at some point. Now, the number 3 prospect in this system, sort of rounding out what I think is a clear top tier before you get into another group that is close but maybe a tier below, is Jonah Tong. And I think people are forgetting how dominant Jonah Tong was. And I've seen some Mets fans really down on Tong because he wasn't great in those 5 big league starts, but he was rushed to the big leagues, only made 2 starts in AAA. He got the call because he was so great in AAA, a level that so many Mets prospects have gotten to, and they've struggled with that transition. Nolan McLean had no issues with it. Christian Scott had no issues with it. Jonah Tong only made 2 starts, but in those starts, he did not give up a run, and he struck out 17 while only walking 3 in 11 and 2/3 innings pitched. That's why he got the call, because he got the AAA and was lights out at a time when the Mets were still unsure about Brandon Sproat. So Tong gets the nod. I think that he's going to end up getting some time, probably even multiple months in AAA to start this upcoming season, and that is fine. He's still only 22 years old. But Jonah Tong has elite stuff. He pitched to a 1.59 ERA in 20 starts in Double-A, struck out 162 batters in 102 innings pitched. That was a strikeout per 9, over 14. His fastball is elite. His changeup is definitely coming along. He has to get a third pitch. He has to work on his slider. Maybe he does find that curveball a little bit more. It can flash like a really good pitch at times with that 12-6 drop, but he's just not consistent. He needs something else that he can land in the strike zone other than just the 4-seam and the changeup. So we'll see what the new pitching coach, if it is Justin Willard, can do with Jonah Tong once he gets his hands on him. But if you can get something else, ideally something like a cutter or a slider that he can have confidence pounding the strike zone with, something that he can throw backdoor and steal a strike when he's down in a count, I think Jonah Tong is going to be able to keep hitters off the fastball even more, and that's just going to make him a pitcher that really does have frontline upside in the big leagues. It just is going to take some time. He was rushed. Don't take that out on him. I still think this is a guy that deserves to be recognized as a better prospect than Brandon Sproat and the other arms in the Mets system, and also someone who should be ranked ahead of some of the other top position players in this system, like Jett Williams, AJ Ewing, some of these other guys that we're going to talk about in the next segment. But who's number 4? Who's number 5? Where does Brandon Sproat factor in? We're going to go through all of that in just a minute. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football and basketball back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action, where you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and then you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, it's easy. Honestly, it's my favorite way to follow along with sports because you can actually combine different sports in the same lineup, and if one of your picks misses, PrizePicks invented the flex play, so you can still double your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Let's go LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 15,000 subscribers. We're within 150. I really do appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. Now, we're going to start off this segment talking about Brandon Spro just because I left off with Jonah Tong. And one thing I wanted to note here, everyone is down on Tong because he didn't look great in the big leagues. I don't want to say everyone, but there is definitely a segment of the fan base that maybe has more doubts about Jonah Tong now than they did before he made his MLB debut, right? Brandon Spro did pitch better in the big leagues, but if you really look at it, Jonah Tong, his first start, he had to deal with all these long stoppages because the Mets put up a ton of runs for him, got a lot of support. It was great. Gives up 4 runs, but only one of those runs was earned. Did not walk any, struck out 6. So that was a good start for Jonah Tong. Second start, he gets burned by the long ball, gives up 3 homers that account for 4 runs, but he gets through 6 innings and he strikes out 6. Not a terrible start. And I would say arguably more impressive than all but one of Brandon Sproat's starts, maybe 2. Then against the Rangers, against Jacob deGrom, has the disaster, doesn't make it out of an inning. So that was a brutal start. But he bounces back 5 innings of 1-run ball with that 1 run being unearned against the Padres, 4 hits, no walks, strikes out 8. Then his final start against the Cubs, gives up 5 runs on 2 innings pitched. So even with that, Jonah Tong had 2 disasters. 2 disasters. He had a start against the Reds where he got burned by the home run ball, and then 2 good starts. 3 of the 5 starts were really not that bad. A couple things go a little bit different. Who knows? Now, this is not to say Brandon Sproat was bad in the big leagues. It's just he made 4 starts. He had 1 start where he went 6 innings scoreless. 1 start where he gave up 3 runs over, I believe it was 6 innings as well. And then he had 2 starts where he didn't make it out of the 5th inning, and he gave up 3 runs. So 3 of the 4 starts, he gave up 3 runs. Not bad. Again, he still had a good, first 4 starts, just acclimated to the big leagues in a pennant race. So you can understand, why Sproat is maybe being remembered a little bit better because he didn't have the meltdown in his 4 starts. I just think that Jonah Tong proved more during the season to be the higher rated prospect than Brandon Sproat. Brandon Sproat, though, right now is the higher floor pitcher for the 2026 season. Like, I think at this moment, Brandon Sproat should go into camp in the Tyler McGill slot that we've seen in the last couple of years, as far as the guy that's 7th, maybe 8th, even potentially 9th, depending on how aggressive you are in the offseason, but on your depth chart, where it's an outside shot that they're going to be part of the big league rotation, could be heading to AAA as rotation depth, could be a long man in the bullpen. You just sort of see how spring goes. I think that's where Brandon Sproat is. I still think he's a really good prospect. I think the Mets have 3 future big league starters who should all make some form of contributions in 2026 when you have Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat. And Christian Scott, no longer a prospect, coming off the Tommy John, but still very similar, has not established himself as a big leaguer just yet. He's another guy that should be part of the mix this season. But Brandon Sproat's not number 4 on my top 10 prospect list. He is number 5. Number 4 is Jett Williams. But I will tell you, we also had our top 15 prospects go up at justbaseball.com. Aram Layton is a prospect guru, spends a lot more time on prospects than I do. I will have him on the show next week, maybe, or potentially the week after that, depending on our schedules. But he's going to go through his top 15, and I was shocked that he had AJ Ewing at number 4 above Jett Williams. Personally, I already made my list before I read Aram's scouting report, and he did move me a little bit on Ewing, still not enough that I would put him above Jett, and I wanted to stick to my own analysis on what I thought before I just read what Aram thinks. But here's why I still like Jett Williams more than AJ Ewing, although these guys are getting closer. And actually, you know what? Let me give you Aram's take first on AJ Ewing, and then I'm going to close it out on Jett. So why Aram loves AJ Ewing, and he jumped from, I think, maybe 8 or 9 on our previous top 15. He was definitely in the top 10, but he was further down the list. Wasn't even a top 100 prospect. Now he will definitely be a top 100 prospect on our update that's coming, I believe, in the next week or two. But AJ Ewing, why he likes him so much is because his contact rates are above average. You could say he probably has maybe a slightly better hit tool than Jett Williams, has good plate discipline, and he's hitting the ball harder than Jett Williams. He's a 70 grade runner compared to Jett as a 60 grade runner. Stole 70 bases in 2025. Defensively, he is holding his own in center field, has a chance to be an above average center fielder. So Aram is rating his top 15 based on future WAR output, right? Who is going to put up the most wins above replacement in 6 years of team control? And with AJ Ewing profiling as a starting center fielder and Jett Williams looking more like an average shortstop, but blocked there for the Mets, so more likely a second baseman, when you also factor in the fact that AJ Ewing can play second base. So the versatility that Jett has to play short, play second, move out and play center in a pinch, AJ Ewing is a center fielder that in a pinch could play second base. So the versatility is there for both of them to play on the dirt and the grass. AJ Ewing is a little bit of a better athlete at this point when you look at the speed, when you look at the fact that he is 5'11". Jett Williams is listed at 5'7". I don't even know if he even is that tall. So I can see why the scouting head and Aram lean toward AJ Ewing, because he really is bought in on his ability to be a solid enough hitter to be able to get on base, to leverage that speed and the defense that's going to play in center. So I'm really excited about how high he is on AJ Ewing, who, if you're looking at the stats and you're not aware of what he did this season, in low A in 18 games, he hit 400, gets called up to Brooklyn, hits 288, steals 44 bases, 387 on base percentage. The slug wasn't really there, doesn't have a lot of power, gets up to double A, and in a little over a month was outstanding. Hit 339, 371 on base, 430 slug, stole 12 bases on 14 attempts. So across, the whole season, you had a guy that was hitting for average and getting on base while playing good enough defense in center field with the ability to be potentially an above average defensive center fielder. I get it. Here's the difference for me. Across 106 games played between low A and high A, you had for AJ Ewing 6 triples. Actually, excuse me. No, I got my stat a little bit wrong here. 106 games played above low A. I forgot which league I was limiting. I took out the low A numbers because he was hitting 400 in low A. And so I wanted to look at against the higher competition, high A and double A, what he did when it came to extra base hits. So 106 games played, 6 triples, 2 homers, 23 doubles. That's 31 extra base hits. In 96 games played just at double A, not even talking about triple A, Jett Williams had 44 extra base hits. To me, the reason why I still think Jett Williams is a better prospect than AJ Ewing is because I think ultimately he is a better hitter. Aram says it in his scouting report that plate discipline for Jett Williams is double plus. What he's concerned about with Jett is the fact that he has slowed down a little bit as a prospect. He's put on some weight, so he's not quite the runner he was when he was a teenager, which is fine. He's a little bit concerned about the fact that Jett Williams, not to put words in his mouth, but from reading the scouting report, just that the hit tool is maybe not where Ewing's could be. And how much do you really put stock in a little bit of additional game power? Because the one thing is Jett Williams is much better at lifting the ball compared to AJ Ewing. But for me, I look at a guy who is 5'7", double plus, plate discipline. I think that Jett Williams is going to get himself into great counts often. And I think what can happen for Jett, I've made this comp in the past, and it's not me saying, hey, Jett Williams is going to become a Hall of Famer. Nobody expected when Jose Altuve was a prospect that he would hit 30 home runs in the big leagues. Nobody thought that would happen. The most home runs he hit in a minor league season was 15. And that was the year before he debuted. Then he hit 10 home runs in 87 games in 2011 before getting promoted. And then once in the big leagues, he couldn't leave the yard. 21 homers across parts of 4 seasons, 2011 through 2014. But in 2015, he hit 15 bombs. Then he hit 24 home runs 2 years in a row after that. He has hit 31 home runs twice now, and he's cleared 20 home runs 7 times in his career. This past season, Jose Altuve hit 26 homers, but he was in the 18th percentile in bat speed. So I think when Aram looks at Jett Williams' bat speed and his hard hit rates and isn't necessarily seeing some of the data that makes him feel like he's a better prospect than AJ Ewing. For me, I'm looking at just straight stats, results. The guy in AA hit 281, got on base at a 390 clip, slugged at a 477 clip. You're talking about probably a difference in slugging percentage of over 100 points compared to him and Ewing because he gets so many more extra base hits because he lifts the ball so much more. It's great if AJ Ewing hits the ball hard, but if he hits the ball hard on the ground, he might be out, right? Jett Williams hit 10 home runs in AA, gets up to AAA, really struggled, hit 209, 285 on base, but his slug was still 433 because he hit 10 home runs in 34 games. So to me, I just think that Jett Williams, if he can punish mistakes, I think that what scouts are viewing as, oh, he's got 10 to 15 home run upside in the big leagues. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's 15 to 20, and who knows, maybe the more and more he gets acclimated to the big leagues, the more he understands big league pitching, continues to get himself into good counts, maybe he can leave the yard 20 plus times. He hit 17 home runs in 130 games this year. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibilities. Now, defensively, yes, he probably ends up being the Mets second baseman of the future, which would be less valuable than if AJ Ewing becomes their center fielder of the future. But I think that there's still a chance that AJ Ewing is more of a fourth outfielder. I think he probably still has a better chance to be a starter, but I'm just thinking long-term outlook on the Mets. Who knows? I think Jett Williams could be their starting second baseman this year. And I think he's going to hit for a high average. He's at second base going to be an above average defender. And he's going to get on base at a good clip for sure. The question is, how much does that game power really translate? I think he might surprise some people. So I still have Jett at number 4, but it was very exciting to still see how high arm was on AJ Ewing, because that just means that's another top 100 prospect in the Mets system. And obviously, like I said, I'm going to get arm on the show. So me and him go back and forth on it. Should be a lot of fun once we get down to that here, whenever he does make his appearance on the show. But what I want to talk about to close out this podcast, the final 4 of my top 10, couple of sluggers, couple of pitchers. We're going to go through them all to close things out in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes watching football or basketball even more exciting when you got a little bit of something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel is going to make the game day experience so much better. It's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to game day. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If you're an everydayer that always tunes into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. Take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways. And then during the season, you're going to get the live graphics sent to your phone each day, so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you're going to be Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description and go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now at number 7 and 8 in the Mets farm system, I have a couple of sluggers, Jacob Reimer and Ryan Clifford. And you can kind of pick your poison here. With Ryan Clifford, you're looking at more home run pop. He had 18 homers in 105 games played in AA, 848 OPS, gets to AAA, 5 home runs in 34 games, held his own actually, a little bit better than Jett Williams and Carson Benge did actually. Got on base at a 359 clip in 34 games in triple, had a 754 OPS, really not that bad, less of a drop-off than his teammates had when they got up to the highest level. He's still only 22 years old, has a strong arm, and is still playing a good amount of outfield. In right field, that arm's going to play. He started 51 games split between left and right, 66 games at first, 22 games at DH. So Ryan Clifford, a very exciting prospect. If you don't remember how the Mets got him, it was in the Justin Verlander trade. He is the last remaining piece of the Justin Verlander trade, as Drew Gilbert was flipped in the Tyler Rogers trade, and Tyler Rogers is now a free agent. But Ryan Clifford is definitely one of the better prospects in that system. The question is going to be, is he a better slugger? Does he have a better future outlook than Jacob Reimer, who had a breakout season this year? Reimer had the better year, I would say. He split his season, 61 games in high A, 61 games in double A, very comparable numbers at each level. 8 homers in high A, 9 homers in double A, 39 RBIs in high A, 38 RBIs in double A. Average within 5 points of each other, on base percentage within 10 points of each other. The slug was much higher, not much higher, but definitely higher in high A, 502 compared to 479. Hit some more doubles, but overall, pretty much the same guy at each level. Put together a slash line of 282 across both stops, 282 batting average, 379 on base, 491 slug, 17 homers, 77 runs driven in. Actually even stole 15 bags on 18 attempts. He's a third baseman. Should be able to stick there. Not going to be an above average defensive third baseman unless he really works on his game. But at this point, still seems like he can stay at third. I think if you are ranking Reimer higher, it's because you are confident that he's going to be a third baseman. The reason why I was splitting hairs and I lean Clifford over Reimer is a couple things. For one, Jacob Reimer is a more well-rounded hitter. He's going to hit for a higher average. But Ryan Clifford is going to walk so much that I think once Reimer gets closer and closer to the show, that average might at some point tick down a little bit. And if he is a 260 hitter instead of a 280 hitter, I think the on-base percentages could be close enough that you're really looking at the difference between a guy in Reimer who is going to hit home runs, but maybe not quite at the clip that Ryan Clifford is. And so because of that, I lean Clifford. And the other thing too, yes, third base more valuable than first base. But I do like the fact that Ryan Clifford is still playing outfield, and I almost wonder if this is sort of similar to a Ryan O'Hearn, where he's probably best at first, but you can stick him into a corner outfield spot. And that is something that can help your big league roster to have that versatility. So I do like that aspect of the fact that Clifford is still getting plenty of time in the outfield. He's not quick, but if he can make the catches on the balls that he gets to, if he can make good enough reads and that arm plays up the way that it should, you could have a guy that theoretically could play a corner outfield spot. I think it's still more likely first base, but if he can go out there and he can play 40 games in the outfield in the season, that brings a little more value to the table. I think they're close, though. I'm not mad at anyone who says Jacob Reimer over Ryan Clifford. I got Clifford at 7 and Reimer at 8. Arm, I think, had the same thing, although I don't remember where he had Elian Pena. He might have had Elian Pena sneak in somewhere. I don't know. I have to go back and check his list. But I do know it was Clifford above Reimer, and the two of them were just like I have them back-to-back in the rankings. Then you get to 9 and 10. Jonathan Santucci and Jack Wenniger are the final two guys in my top 10. And again, I could have gone either way. I ultimately went Santucci at 9, Wenniger at 10, just because Santucci came on so strong. In Double-A, he pitched to a 2.52 ERA in 10 starts, struck out 63 in 50 innings pitched. Was outstanding. He's a lefty. Fastball sits 94-95. This was his first pro season. Jack Wenniger ticked up a lot in his second pro season. So I'm still maybe leaving a little bit more room for Santucci to tick up again. And look, if the velocity ticks up, and he starts sitting 96 as a lefty, good luck. And he's got a good slider. Slider's probably his best pitch. He has to figure out that third offering, maybe a curveball, maybe a changeup. Those are the pitches he's working on. If he can get those pitches to average levels as just different offerings to keep hitters off the fastball slider combination, you are talking about a guy that can stick in the rotation. If he doesn't have a changeup and a curveball, if it really ends up just being a 2-pitch mix, if that velo ticks up out of the bullpen, you could have a dominant left-handed reliever too. So I like the different aspects of Santucci making a big league impact. Not that Jack Wenniger can't out of the bullpen, but I think Jack Wenniger, to me, is a guy that maybe needs to be a starter a little bit more, needs to have the well-rounded arsenal. He's getting there, though. He had a great season. 26 starts in AA, 2.92 ERA, 147 strikeouts, 135 and two-third innings pitched. His velocity ticked up compared to 24. In 2024, he had a 92.5 mile per hour average velocity on his fastball. This past season, that fastball velo ticked up over 95 and was closer to 96 over his final 10 starts. He also dominated in the playoffs, which was really good to see. I know it's AA playoffs. It's not the intrigue. It's not the eyeballs of the playoffs in October for Major League Baseball. But those are still games that matter, that players care about. And he really did shove in those playoff games. I think that was really encouraging to see. His splitter is probably his best pitch, pairs very well with that fastball. And a lot of times with splitters, they might pair a little bit better, or they might fare a little bit better, I should have said, against opposite-handed hitters. For Jack Wenniger, Arm notes in his scouting report, splitter worked against lefties and righties. So that was another good thing that he was able to do this year, is just use that pitch effectively against both sides. So that's something that helps him out a little bit. Again, I think you're splitting hairs when you're talking about Jack Wenniger versus Jonathan Santucci. Right now, those two guys are the next wave beyond, of course, McLean, Tong, and Sproat. They're next up. I think Wenniger starts this season in AAA. Santucci maybe gets a little more seasoning in AA, but it very well could be a similar plan for him as what we saw for Nolan McLean, where Nolan McLean started this past season in AA, made five starts, looked great, and it's like, all right, cool, send him up to triple. Same thing could happen for Santucci. Just sort of depends on what's your roster looking like, because you're going to have Jack Wenniger in AAA, probably have Christian Scott, not really rehabbing, but I still think he maybe starts the year in AAA to get his feet wet, to at least have a month or two of starts just under his belt before you throw him back into the fire in the big leagues. Jonah Tong can be part of that rotation. So spots start to get taken up kind of quickly, and I do wonder if that keeps Santucci in AA a little bit longer, if the Mets just have so many arms in AAA. There's every chance that Brandon Sproat and Jonah Tong start the year in AAA. So I'm curious how their seasons play out in that regard. But two guys that are definitely very, very promising prospects that round out a top 10 that is as good as probably any farm system in baseball. Really excited to see where things have gone for the New York Mets in that regard. A much improved system this year. I will, again, be doing a full show on prospects 11 to 20. I also might even get into a couple just missed. So we still have plenty of prospect content coming right now. Arm will be on the show at some point to go through his top 15 and some of, I think, the more interesting takes from that list that he had. Again, I definitely want to talk to him about AJ Ewing. He's very high on Jack Wenniger. He had those two guys flipped actually on his list. He had Wenniger above Santucci. So dealer's choice there. Last thing before we close the show. Minor leaguers the Mets have that elected free agency. I just want to run through the names. This was the biggest news item we had on Friday. Matt Allen is a minor league free agent. Had another injury-plagued year. He's going to hit the market. We'll see if he ends up back with the Mets or he signs with another team. Imagine probably another team. Bres Montes de Aca, no longer with the New York Mets. Those are the two names that stand out because those are some pitching prospects that fans really gravitated towards, and they just haven't been able to stay on the mound. Jose Azocar, Joey Meneses, Ty Adcock, Joe Lasorsa, Luke Ritter, longtime Met, is going to be a minor league free agent. I wonder if Luke Ritter just goes to the KBO and mashes for a couple of years. We'll see. Omar De Los Santos, Jace Beck, and Luis Moreno all elect free agency. So just wanted to update you guys on that little piece of Mets news. That's going to be all, though, for this edition of Locked On Mets. Really do appreciate all of you for tuning into the show. I'll be back with another episode of the show on Monday, either going back into the well on the top prospects or reacting to any news we get over the weekend. As always, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description to be part of our text and service, or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets.